So there was a lot of connections there to the TSM team before you joined them. Was it really like they presented it? Because I remember when I looked up like the old AMA thread or something where they explained you joining, they made it sound like, you know, they had their issues with the Rain Man and then, you know, they were going to kick him out the team. And then they made it sound like, well, Dyrus is already in the other room anyway, so should we just use him, you know? Surely it wasn't really like that. They must have, was there more to it than that?
Well, it definitely, I don't think it was that planned. Because how I got to the TSM house in the first place is I remember they're like, hey, Chaos needs a roommate or something. They just need like an extra guy. And I just so happened to be that guy. I don't know if they actually planned that out or not, but the moment Rayman was off, like they basically came to me and were like, hey, want to join TSM? And I was just like, wow. And I was like, what happened? Like, who are you gonna get if I don't join? And then they're like, oh, we'll probably get Crumbs or someone. And I was like, after a couple of minutes, I was like, all right, yeah, I want to join. Because what happened was I would just be in their house streaming, playing for fun, but I would be jealous because they would be scrimming, practicing hard against other teams, scrimming against COG EU or like other good teams. I'd be like, wow, that seems like fun, you know, playing at a higher level instead of just solo queue. I'm a very socially awkward person, and so when I think of an opportunity to say something, it's like, you know, wow, I'm contributing to the conversation. Okay. I'm not being quiet. And I remember them mentioning something like against their, like, oh yeah, we're playing against Dignitas, and oh god, just thinking back on it, I just feel so stupid for it. I think they mentioned something about like, oh yeah, I wonder what they play, and then all of a sudden, like it just came out. Like it was just really dumb. There's no thought process around it. I just like I don't know how any other way.
It's just an honest mistake, isn't it?
It was just like a really honest, dumb mistake. Something that didn't benefit me. What actually happened was not only that it didn't benefit me, it also tilted my team too, because they were stressing out about me, like, you know, ruining our reputation from, you know, leaking to other teams, or like out in the open, the public. And
well, you know, when the other Dignitas players, like over the years, I mean, people need to know, right? That Dignitas team especially were like some of the most laid back guys. Like a lot of them were cool people who can poke for themselves, you know. But over the years, okay, they would often reference that in a joking manner. But some of them actually were just mad at you for years over this, right? They actually did. It pissed them off, right?
Yeah, no, that's reasonable. I think the person who was most pissed off at me was probably Crumbs.
Yes.
But as for everyone else, well, what happened after I said Scar and Crumbs was like, come here. And then after they were all standing there, I just realized what I did like 10
Wait a minute, Crumbs
later.
was actually stood there as you said it.
No, they were like in the area, and I was just talking, and then they're like, Dyrus, come here. And I walked up to them, and they were just all standing there, and it's like, you know what you're talking about, right? I'm like, and I was just like, oh, fuck. And then Scar was like, all right, it's okay, it's already done, you know, just stop talking. And like, it was just the most awkwardest, like, it was the worst feeling, one of the worst feelings in my entire life.
So what's funny is, from my perspective, I always thought to myself, like, wow, it's actually not that long. You know, you wait all your time to get your turn, you wait for the other people to move aside, you get your shot, but then actually the life cycle can be pretty quick. As you alluded to earlier in the interview with the charisma angle, the problem is the charisma that draws people in initially that they love you for, eventually they get bored with that and suddenly they love some other guy. And you're like, what? I thought I'm doing better than ever. So did it seem, when you were on the way up, like, did it seem like it was just impossible to get past Anders and Semler, that they'd always have this, like, edge over you in the scene of the industry or something?
So this is where I can come off as very arrogant if I'm not careful in how I say this. It's not meant to be, but I'm aware of my abilities, and I knew technically that I may not ever beat them on game knowledge. I may not ever beat Anders' hype. But from a technical delivery standpoint, like, I knew, like, we can definitely get close to them. And I wouldn't have been pursuing it if I didn't think that I could, right? Like, one of the reasons I started casting was, like I say, with COD way back, I was like, I can be better than these guys. They're trash. And that can be very cocky. But at the same time, I think you have to have a bit of cockiness and confidence. I will fully admit that, like, I have lashed out a few times at colleagues where it's like, that was stupid on my part. Why did I do that? And it comes to the point of, like, we all have egos, and our egos have inflated. I will say that our egos have inflated because, like, doing PUBG and stuff, those guys are so much more chill still because they're, like, back where we were. Well, they're like where we were in, like, 2015, right? They're like, oh, the event, I'm super excited to be here. Hey, how's it going? I love you. Like, and I get it. Whereas we're like, fuck, I got to go to this event next week. God damn. Like, and we love when we're on camera and stuff, but, like, the rest of it. Yeah, I think we're to the point where there's so much ego in the room at times. Like, we would do better to just walk over and say, Jason, I don't like that you did this, or, like, why are you trying to do this business-wise? I think this is a better approach for all of us rather than your interests. And I'm just giving vague examples here. Sure. Or, you know, vice versa. If someone came to me and said, you know, Matt, why are you, that joke's, like, puts us in an awkward position when you say that, and it's like we're left not knowing what to say, based on some of my controversy or whatever. Like, we would be so much better to just come and deal with it and be respectful about it and then air it out and move on. But none of us do, because we're all, like, scared of each other at this point. Like, oh, that guy's reacted poorly in the past, so why would I go talk to him about it? And then it just makes it worse. And it's something I think we really have to address. And I think it's something that personally I have to, like, I can't just say, oh, they need to do that. Well, I need to do it too, right? Like, we all need to do it. We all need to make the effort to be better in that sense. So yeah, I think that's part of it.
They wait until CLG wins the LCS, basically, to finally be like, see, oh, I guess they are a good bot lane. I always tell people, just because CLG was failing as a team and in the playoffs, that bot lane was pretty much amazing from, like, season 4 on, right? I mean, that was the era when that was half the problem with Seraph, right? Is that the bot lane was sick, but then if everyone else feeds away in the top lane and then Link fucks up something in the mid lane, then you can't win the game with one lane. So in a weird sense, I don't want to make excuses for you, but I can understand where the frustrations would come from if you're in a team like that.
Yeah, no, it was pretty rough. I feel like there's a lot of resentment, not only because, like, I feel like we were the best part of the team, and, like, we kind of knew it, but, like, we were also the most popular part of the team because, like, Seraph and Link didn't have very many fans. So I think, like, it's all these, like, little tiny things that always make, like, a big difference. Like, when we have fan meets, you know, and people, they don't even know who, like, Seraph and Link are. Like, they just, like, barely know their names or something, but they, like, spend, like, a minute like gushing about me and Afro, and, like, oh, I watch your streams all the time, you guys are so funny together. It's like, I feel, I don't know.
And then people are doing that shit where they're like,
it's actually kind of fucked up.
No, that's the sort of scenario, right, where someone comes up to Seraph and he's thinking, like, oh, finally they're going to recognize me. And like, hey, could you take a picture of me and Doublelift together? And then it's like, that's, like, the worst feeling, obviously, in the world, isn't it? Like, if you're actually a pro player. What was it like playing in a team with Link? And how would you explain why things ended so badly that he kind of, like, seemed to resent you particularly, but the entire team in the end?
Dude, Link was the most on and off player I've ever played with, actually. Like, I think at times he was playing super well in practice, and he was super motivated, and he made a huge effort to be, like, positive in review and, like, be a good teammate, practice solo queue, like, when we're not scrimming. And then there was just times, like, there was phases where, like, it was the opposite. Like, he was toxic, he was, like, really crabby all the time. He would blame everyone except for himself. And, like, you know, not practice much. That was pretty common back then, but, like, you know, not really seemed like he put in, like, a ton of effort, and he would just be playing bad. And, like, yeah, I think the most striking thing about, like, the Dunso Manifesto to me is, like, that I got, like, a lot of the flack when, like, I feel like everyone was at fault, and I'd say, like, in almost equal percentages. Like, but he, like, really tunneled on, like, the things that, like, we clashed on a lot, which I like didn't even think was a big deal at the time, but, like, I guess, like, really, like, scarred him. I don't know. Like, I think I like did some things that, like, really messed with him, but I think at no point did I, like, not just, like, completely disregard him as a teammate. I always respected him because we were friends, and outside the game we got along great. We would, like, hang out, we would get food together. Like, Link was my friend, and then, like, I think he took it extremely personally when he got kicked off the team, thinking that, like, I was a huge reason why, and, like, I was, like, the driving force behind it. When, like, I barely even knew that we were replacing Link. Like,
I think you have to have no life to really succeed in that kind of stuff.
Sure. Well, I mean, I would describe it like this. Like, I've always thought that the secret, if you want to make it in an area like this, like a very niche area that's obviously very competitive as well, is ideally what you do for your work, like, really is your hobby. You know, it's what you'd actually choose to do. Like people think this is a joke, but when I'm not at events, I'm almost like, oh, great, now I can start making some videos. Like, that would be work for other people, you know, but I'm loving it, so it's no problem. Is it similar for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's one of the main reasons why I did this, right? Because I'm doing something now that I'm actually really passionate about. And you have to be, because it becomes a job, right? And it's to the point where, yeah, what I'm doing right now, I have to think about it like a business and I have to think about it like a job, but it's something that I actually am passionate about and would and look forward to every day. And if it wasn't, I probably wouldn't do it. But
so did you legitimately then like make an active decision, like, yeah, I'm going to step back from that? And what? And if so, what can you kind of in a concise manner explain what the direction instead was going to be? Did you have a set direction in mind instead?
Yeah, I've been trying for a long time because, you know, I started in the niche of Counter-Strike.
Sure, yeah.
And I primarily do make Counter-Strike videos, but I don't know, like, you have to think long term. In 5 years, is it going to be like it is now? I kind of want to do this as long as I can. So I want the brand to be about the content that I produce, the War Owl stuff. I don't want it to be just tied directly to Counter-Strike. But I mean, War Owl, I think, is just completely tied to Counter-Strike at this point. So that's a really tough position to be in.
Yeah.
But
so did you legitimately then like make an active decision, like, yeah, I'm going to step back from that? And what? And if so, what can you kind of in a concise manner explain what the direction instead was going to be? Did you have a set direction in mind instead?
Yeah, I've been trying for a long time because, you know, I started in the niche of Counter-Strike.
Sure, yeah.
And I primarily do make Counter-Strike videos, but I don't know, like, you have to think long term. In 5 years, is it going to be like it is now? I kind of want to do this as long as I can. So I want the brand to be about the content that I produce, the War Owl stuff. I don't want it to be just tied directly to Counter-Strike. But I mean, War Owl, I think, is just completely tied to Counter-Strike at this point. So that's a really tough position to be in.
Yeah. I realise they're tough to figure out if you haven't been to other countries, because you might think, isn't everyone like that? But they aren't. I mean, we've heard, if you want to use the Korean example, we all know the stories of Korea where some of the players who become semi-pros even, like, they're basically risking everything. They might have to leave home or they get looked down. You know, there's all these factors that, yes, again, they're not nice factors, but they might spur you to become a great player. Whereas if you're just having a cool time at home in NA, maybe there's no fire under your ass, if you know what I mean.
I mean, one of the first things that comes to mind on the topic of players that don't have anything, but they do everything is like the Rox Tigers when they were playing out of PC bongs. And they just didn't have anything going for them. I mean, there's been so many other Korean teams. Look at the Korean team Griffin. They've had not the best experience the last year and a half or something. Is this a challenger team? This is the challenger team that that was causing an uproar in Korea recently. They didn't have the best of experience, but they're probably better than most LCS teams. And in fact, I would go as far to say they are better than most LCS teams. And no one has heard of them. And it's like, you can't say that they have it better than some of the North American LCS teams in terms of staff and support and whatever else is going on. No, but they just make better usage of it. Or
by the way, as you referenced with Bet earlier, this is the same in StarCraft 2. I mean, Nanoa was a good friend of mine, so I knew him very well.
Yeah.
He used to literally tell me every time he went back to Korea, so he'd go to the West for a few months, live in Sweden again, go to all the MLGs. He said every time he went back to Korea, the first few weeks, not even first week, the first few weeks would involve losing and to B-teamers, and he'd be thinking, fucking hell, am I ever going to win if I lose to this guy? But if you could get through the first 2 weeks, you would then elevate your level, you'd be good enough to play the top. But what that's showing is a guy that, you know, if he was playing on the EU server, he'd be like Grandmaster with like 80% win rate, wouldn't he? So the same quality he couldn't translate directly.
Yeah, you couldn't translate it. And also, I think this is a problem with spectators, is an inability to detect the difference. Like you're talking about Naniwa going over to Korea and losing to B-teamers. I remember Grubby, when he came over to Korea and he was high Grandmaster or something on US at one point. Or people will reference Stefano when he came over to Korea, or Scarlet or whatever. And the spectators or the people on Reddit or Twitter, they will see the end result of whatever is going on with these players, but they won't see what's going on in the in-between. They won't see them losing to the B teamers. They won't see them going negative win rate or failing to find success on the ladder. And what this ends up doing is they are ignorant and incapable of even seeing how big is the difference, or what exactly is it that's causing the difference between these random solo queue players or these random StarCraft ladder players and our top tier cream of the crop professionals.
To paraphrase the legendary DMX, I just love when y'all in my Patreon crew give me a bigger piece of cake to chew a hole through. Because obviously, one of the ways I'm able to support myself and make content like I do on this channel is thanks to my Patreon community and the likes of Ahmed Hadjou, Frisky, Matt Pugnatio, Rajcula, Animosity, Jensen Goh, Tobias Bernasconi, Tosh, Torin, and always a special thanks goes out to my main man, Jerky's Minion. Do you want to ask a question in my video AMA? Do you want to suggest a topic or a guest to interview? Maybe you want teasers, find out who I've already interviewed in upcoming episodes. Or do you want to take part in one of those lengthy online discussions that I do with my top patrons? Well, if any of these perks or more appeal to you, then put your money where your mouth is and join the Skrilluminati today via the Patreon link below.